I think the best thing we can say about the Vikings winning at Tennessee on Sunday is it felt like a check-the-box win, and the Vikings are good enough to do that. A year after they were 7-10 with Sam Darnold as quarterback, they're able to go down there and just kind of get a routine victory.
Yeah, it's, it wasn't the prettiest. It wasn't the most dominant. It wasn't one of those victories that says, hey, we are ready to roll and we're going to be a prime contender in the NFL or in the playoffs this year. But what it was that it was workmanlike. It was professional. They didn't mess around with it. The outcome was never really in doubt. And I do think there is something to be said for that. They've been scuffling a little bit lately, even though the wins are coming. And they didn't go down there they went down there and they were never in any peril. And I do think that is notable for a team like this that is operating kind of above all of the external expectations that people had for them. And so I thought that was a good sign for their future prospects for this season, that they were just be able to go down there and just take care of business.
Yep. Let's get more into the weeds and look ahead to what I think is a really interesting matchup in Chicago this weekend. This is the Viking Update Show. He's John Krawczynski from The Athletic. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune. The Viking Update Show is presented to you by OnX Hunt. That's ON_X Hunt. We'll tell you more about them later. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We want to thank Natrium, Natrium.com, Crazy Fresh, True Vision Institute, and Twill in the Edina Galleria. Best way to listen to this show or any of the shows you like on our network, subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen, and we do appreciate it. Scheduling notes. We're talking here on Monday morning, Tuesday night, 7 p.m., Head Flyer Brewing, the John Krawczynski Show, our basketball show, will go live at Head Flyer Brewing in Minneapolis. Easy parking, lots of space, but we do pack the joint. Jim Peterson will be our guest. Come out. It's always a blast. Also, if you're interested, my band's playing Glicks 9:30 Friday night if you'd like to drop by. All right, let's get into it here. So I thought the biggest, most important thing about the game was that Darnold played really well. He didn't make any of those oh-no throws. And if Naylor catches that ball in the end zone, he ends up with a really spectacular stat line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sam Darnold needed a day like that. He needed something to kind of flush all of the mistakes of the previous several weeks behind him, to sort of like reassert himself. I thought, Jim, one of the keys to this performance was last week when Kevin O'Connell sits in the locker room after that muddled game and says, everyone knows, Sam, that you're the guy that's going to take us where we want to go. And I think that while there wasn't many options otherwise to consider, you're not going to consider Nick Mullins. You're not going to think about anybody else on the roster. It felt like his grip on the position was getting a little tenuous. And for Kevin O'Connell to go out and be that kind of forthright, that blunt in his assessment that, hey, Sam's our guy, we believe in him, I think that carried over to this week. You saw him, make a couple of plays with his feet. He was sharp in the passing game, no interceptions. And this, I think, could help to settle him in a little bit more and right when they need to. I mean, you're going to Chicago next week where you usually play poorly as a team there. And then you're going to get into December and some real big games with a lot of stakes going on. So you need Sam Darnold to start building some momentum. And this was a really strong first step for him in that process.
Never before has he gotten this deep into a season as an uninterrupted starter. He had a bad half against the Jets. He had 2 bad games back-to-back going into this one. The fact that they're able to write him and that he's able to write himself, you can't do it without the player himself, is pretty impressive. And I just feel like, I don't know what the high end or the realistic postseason expectations for this team are, but what they've done to date, especially from the coaching staff, is really impressive.
It is. And I think you hit on a key point, Jim, because it can be very easy for a person of his pedigree, the one who has been through the difficulties before, who's been benched, who has been up and down, to put it kind, in the start to his NFL career with the Jets and the Panthers, when when you get wobbly like he was the previous couple of weeks, that can turn into just being caught in that jet wash and not being able to pull yourself out of it, almost trying too hard to make plays and to convince everyone that, no, I got this. And then that only gets worse. And to Sam Darnold's credit, he did not do that. It did not look like he was pressing yesterday. It didn't look like he walked into that stadium and saying, man, it's been tough here. I have to prove myself to everyone else. No, I think he played within himself. He was calm and cool and just doing things that he is able to do and not anything more, nothing less. And, playing quarterback in this league is such a mental game, and it would have been very easy for him to just get all caught up and try too hard and then really kind of go into a tailspin. And instead, he just trusted, I think, this coaching staff. He trusted this offense and everyone around him, and he went out and just made the smart plays and got in and out of there very cleanly. And like you said, yeah, it could have been an even bigger day if the Naylor play kind of links up. But still, 246 yards, a couple touchdowns, runs for the touchdown, like all of that stuff, just you couldn't ask for a whole lot more out of Sam Darnold than what he gave him.
Do you think what we're seeing out of Justin Jefferson right now, which is steady but unspectacular play, while his buddy Jamar Chase is going absolutely bonkers with a bad Bengals team, do you think what we're seeing, yesterday was almost a typical game for this season, 6 catches, like 81 yards, no touchdown. Other than that 99-yard touchdown pass early in the season, he's been more of a possession receiver this year in this offense. Should we get used to that, or do you think there's still a chance for more?
Yeah, I definitely think, I think there's more that is being left on the table. Absolutely. He is just too dang talented to not have some kind of a capability of having that Jamar Chase kind of game, because all these games that Jamar Chase is having, you would have described as Justin Jefferson type games, prior to this season. And he's still putting up really good numbers. I think he's still helping the offense a great deal by all of the attention that he is drawing on a play in and play out basis. But yeah, I do think that we are still waiting for just the dominant breakout performance. And, maybe O'Connell and Wes Phillips have to look a little bit closer at how do they create more opportunities for him. Maybe it is a Darnold thing where he's missing some, a couple of things. I haven't watched the film back to see, exactly, if there were other things, if there are other plays available there that, he just didn't see or didn't make the right read on. I think there's a few things like that come into play when you're kind of assessing where the receiver is. But certainly I do think that he is capable of having just an explosive game here soon, especially if Sam Darnold did rediscover just a little bit of the feel and the confidence that he had earlier in the season. I think one of the most encouraging things about that early season stretch for Darnold was that he was letting it fly down the field. And doing it smartly, though, not recklessly. And so I think that if Darnold can sort of reclaim his spot here and really just kind of solidify like yesterday was, maybe that opens up a little bit more confidence in himself to grip it and rip it and give Justin Jefferson some more chances down the stretch. Because I do think they're going to need him to come through, with a couple of big games here for them to really solidify the best seeding possible and have a chance in the playoffs.
All right. I have some questions about the defense. I'm really interested to talk about the Bears, the way they looked different on Sunday, even though they ended up losing the game on a blocked field goal. They look like they are the kind of team that's going to be quite a challenge for this Vikings team, the way the Vikings are playing right now. And let's get into the change on offensive line, and we'll pick the Bears game as well. Right now, I want to let you know about OnX Hunt. Deer hunting season is here, and it's time to own your odds with OnX Hunt, the GPS hunting app trusted by millions of hunters. With the Hunt app, you'll have access to nationwide public and private land ownership information, waypoints, tracks, and much more, all at your fingertips. Go to onxmaps.com/hunt to sign up today. And thanks to Onyx Hunt for sponsoring so many shows on the network right now. We're also coming from the Aquarius Home Services. I also want to tell you about Natrium. A friend of ours, Andrea Yak, she was on the Dawn Mitchell show. She's the founder of the Minnesota Aurora, and she's involved in all kinds of things in sports and media across the town. She took my advice. She went to a Natrium and a wildflower shop the other day, and she ended up getting some of the sleep gummies that I use. We both have the same problem. Our brains race when we go to bed. Use a sleep gummy. It settles you down. I also want to say that they have so many other options. That's why I recommend going to a Natrium or a wildflower shop, because they have so many different options. Drinks, balms for your joints, balms for your guts, oils for your guts, dips, fun stuff, candies, gummies. Again, stuff for sleep, stuff for stress, stuff for fun. The variety of drinks alone is astonishing. Different flavors, different ingredients, and it's all really simple stuff. So you know it's healthy. You can read the ingredients, and there's like 3 or 4 ingredients. They're not packing the stuff with chemicals or anything else. I recommend going to an Atrium store because there are so many choices, and the sales executives are so knowledgeable, and they can point you in the right direction. I needed help first couple times I went there before I identified what I liked. So I would go there, and then once you get used to what you like, then you can always go to natrium.com and order. But for now, go try out an Atrium shop or a wildflower shop. Highly recommend them. As far as Crazy Fresh, I've been telling you about how Crazy Fresh has made my life simple. Simple meals, simple snacks, all that very healthy. My wife has kind of gotten in the act now. Number one, she loves the Cobb or the Chef or the Southwestern salad, being able to take it to work. She's an educator. She has no time during the day. She can eat it quickly, and it's healthy, and it's filling, and she loves it. The other thing this weekend she discovered is some of the dip trays that we get, including the cowboy salsa. She adds it to her eggs, and all of a sudden it looks like something you get at a really fancy brunch. The guacamole is great. All the different salsas are great. The dip trays are great for football watching on the weekends. Check it all out. Crazy Fresh. And with Crazy Fresh, I do recommend getting it delivered because they bring it to you in an insulated pouch. It's fresh. All you do is pop it in the fridge, and your meals and your snacks are set for the week. Also, they do have a golden ticket out there. First winner of a golden ticket that comes in some of the packs that you buy got to go to the Vikings-Packers game at Lambeau. There are more golden tickets out there. Check them out and check out Crazy Fresh. Let's get to the defense briefly. I thought if Josh Metellus had played the long touchdown pass the way he plays most plays, maybe that game is a blowout. It would just seem to be an uncharacteristic mistake by him.
Yeah, I was at the Timberwolves game, and it was pregame where I was watching it on TV at Target Center, and so I didn't have the sound up on the TV, and I saw the play unfold, and it happens, and he goes, the whole way, and I'm like, what the heck happened there? And I looked back, and at first I saw a defender falling down, and then the long score. And I'm just thinking of all of the players that I could think of on that Vikings defense that would have made that mistake in that situation. Josh Metellus was like the last guy.
Yeah.
He's so reliable. He has been so versatile, so dynamic for them. And I just like, when I saw, and I ran the replay back and saw that it was 44, I like, no way. Like it's just one of those flukes. I really do think it was. His feet got crossed up. He turned around at the wrong time and just made a bad play. And that does happen. And you're right, Jim. Like if he plays that thing like he has played every other play this season pretty much for them, either that's a knockdown, that's a breakup, and they're going to be 15, and maybe the Vikings get in a great field position and go down and score again, and it turns into a more comfortable victory. But I'm going to give Josh Metellus the grace in that because he's just been so important to what they do, and he's been so freaking good. But I was shocked when I watched that and said, oh my gosh, it's Josh Metellus. I just never thought that he would make a play like that.
Agreed. The other interesting development, Reisner starting for Ed Ingram. And it's not like Reisner going in there suddenly made them pop 80-yard runs or anything like that, but I did think the pass protection was pretty good. Darnold had time. And frankly, as many positive things are happening for the Vikings. I think the coaching staff has done a great job. Their veteran free agent signings have been home runs. Their work with Darnold's been great. 8-2 is great. The one negative for the organization right now is the last 3 drafts just don't look good.
Yeah, it's, and I guess you can get by with that when you do hit in free agency the way that they have, when you do coach to the level that this coaching staff appears to be doing with developing guys, with, finding undrafted guys like Ivan Pace and doing it that way and going about it unconventionally. But sooner or later, it's going to catch up to you. If you keep kind of missing on these things. That's why I do think seeing Jordan Addison have another touchdown yesterday and starting to show a little bit more over the last 3 or 4 weeks is really important for them, because they just need to have some of these draft picks click in a significant way for them. And I know they have a bunch of cap space coming up here next year, and they'll be able to continue to communicate and try and supplement through free agency, but it's just not a winning strategy over the long haul. So, whether it's they're getting unlucky, whether, some other things are happening, I do think that there needs to be some real conversations had internally about what they are seeing with the evaluation of some of these players and why they have been so underwhelming largely in the Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah era. It's definitely a weakness that does need to be addressed for this regime to have the chance to have long-term success.
Yes, and you can do it in veteran free agency, but it's expensive, and then you deal with older players. It's just not as sure a path. It can happen, obviously, but it's not as sure a path, and it puts a lot of pressure on the coaches to just incorporate those people immediately. Or the other thing is Dallas Turner now, 2 straight games with zeros across the board defensively.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on there, to be honest, in terms of evaluating Dallas Turner right now. Physically, he looks the part. And we have seen a couple of flashes this season where he gets to the quarterback and looks to be a physically overwhelming player. So my guess is that his technical mastery of the position is certainly leaving wanting right now. They do have other options at edge rusher with Van Ginkel, with Grenard, with Jones. They have guys who are filling in and doing a good job. But that one to me is kind of concerning, because you did spend capital to go up and get him. And generally speaking, it feels like edge rusher is a place where a rookie can come in and make an impact, and at least be somewhat viable early on in his career. Like there are receiver, there's other positions, even defensive back, cornerback, that can take a year or two for guys to figure out the nuances of it and master it. I think that we see younger players excelling at edge rusher a little quicker if they have the juice. And right now, we're not seeing that from Dallas Turner, and I do think that's a bit of a concern.
Let's get to the Bears. I think it's a really interesting matchup at an interesting point of the season. Do want to hear from John on his experience at True Vision Institute.
True Vision Institute in Bloomington. Excuse me, getting choked up, emotional at everything they've done for me. Last summer I had LASIK surgery, and I just cannot understate what a change it has been for me in my life. It's been so much easier to be able to go through life without glasses, without contacts. But even beyond just what it has done for me on a day-to-day basis, the overall experience of going into True Vision, of working with the people in the office there, and how warm and inviting and educated and formative they are, it just makes this process such an easy one. It can be a little daunting to think about going through with a surgery on your eyes and really kind of changing the way that you see in a demonstrable way. But you go into True Vision, you have everyone there who walks you through the process, who makes you feel at home, who congratulates you when it's all over, because they know what you've just done, what you've just gone through is a life-changing experience. Dr. Chu, when he gets you in the operating room, is so calm, so helpful in ushering you through a shockingly quick process. It takes literally minutes to get this thing done. And then you're on your way. And by the next day, after a little bit of a rest, you are seeing clearly. And like you were when you were super young. So, right now, I see perfectly fine. I do not have to go in every year or two for new glasses, for new contacts, spending hundreds of dollars on those, going through that whole process. And I'm just free and clear right now, thanks to Chew Vision. So go to chewvision.com to set your, to set up your appointment. Go in, just hear them out, go through the process, and you will be, when it's all said and done, regretting that you didn't do it 10 years ago, just like I did.
We love supporting local businesses. We love working with local businesses. I started buying stuff at Twill in the Edina Galleria a long time ago. When I started this podcast network, I was really hoping I'd be able to work with Scott Dayton, the founder and owner of Twill, and I was lucky enough to be able to do so. Now my closet is pretty much all Twill stuff. I don't get free stuff. I don't get discounts. I don't ask for discounts. I go there and pay full freight because I want to support a local business also because the stuff is awesome. Just bought a fresh batch. I'm about to go on a vacation with my wife. Everything I'm packing is Twill stuff because it wears well. It's comfortable. It doesn't wrinkle on planes. It doesn't wrinkle in suitcases. It comes out looking good. It wears like iron, and I'm never going to have to replace it. It's just so simple. Everything from from casual shoes to dressy shoes to golf stuff to dress stuff to suits. By the way, you get everything tailor fit, which really helps me out. And everything from, gopher stuff to winter stuff to summer stuff. They just have everything. So go to twillmn.com, sign up for email updates. They won't send you anything unless they have a very specific event they want you to know about. They won't spam you. And go in there and say hello. Tell them we sent you. It's just a pleasant group of knowledgeable people. They are experts at what they do. It's the best men's clothing store in Minnesota. Go check out Twill online and in person in the Edina Galleria. All right, so I'm really interested in this Bears game. I mean, listen, it's hard to get fired up about Jacksonville. Everybody's getting fired. It's hard to get fired up about Tennessee. They're no good. The Bears team, they're not good, but they should have won at Washington, if not for, bad coaching and a Hail Mary. They should have beaten the Packers on Sunday if they don't get a last-second field goal blocked. They've changed offensive coordinators, and now Caleb Williams looks much more efficient, much more comfortable. So Brian Flores is going to have to go in there and fluster Caleb Williams a week after Caleb Williams looked really good against the Packers. I think this is a really intriguing game.
It is. They're looking feisty, Jim. And that's the kind of Bears team that historically has given the Vikings all sorts of problems at Soldier Field. How many times have we seen it before where a good to very good Vikings team goes down to Chicago, plays a mediocre to bad Bears team, but they just find a way to win the game. And a couple of weeks ago, I would have been far less concerned about this game than I am right now. Like you said, I think they have stabilized a little bit. They are not beating themselves nearly as much as they did earlier in the season. Caleb Williams is not taking a ton of sacks. He took 3 in this last game against the Packers, but he's getting rid of the ball a little bit quicker. They are spreading it around a little bit. The defense, it can make you work. It has kept scoring down for the most part. And so this, it feels like, a game that went from one where you're like, oh man, O'Connell and Flores are going to, coach circles around Eberflus and that staff. And Williams looks a little overwhelmed. DJ Moore is sniping at people. They're just going to go in there and take advantage of a crumbling team and pick up an easy win. But now it looks like they better be ready to go in there and play at least like they did against Tennessee, and maybe even a little bit better to come out with the win here.
Agreed. I think Eberflus is going to get fired. Yes. He's already changed the offensive coordinator. He's already obviously cost them games. And what's bad for him is you can look at the things he's done and then look at the things like Jim Harbaugh has done in exactly the same situations. Mm-hmm. And Harbaugh did it right because Harbaugh's a great coach, and Eberflus looked like he didn't really even have a plan. It's like Harbaugh could have just tried a longer field goal to win a game last night. Instead, keeps running the ball. They bust a 29-yard touchdown run. Then he also calls a timeout before a Hail Mary to set his defense. And, it just looks like Eberflus, it looks like the only way he learns is by making a catastrophic mistake. And, football's different. You have all week to prepare. You have an 8-month off season to prepare. You should have everything scripted out in your head before it ever happens. It looks like he's surprised by difficult situations.
Well, and I'll even go a different comparison, Jim, because Harbaugh. Look, with Harbaugh, he has done it at a high level, both in college and in the NFL. We've seen it before. And so him going in to the Chargers and having a really good quarterback there in Justin Herbert and then having success, you're not shocked by it, because he's done it. He's a really good coach. He's proven, he's quirky. He's weird. He's not for everyone, but I see that and I say, okay, this is not unexpected at all. I look at Washington, Jim, with Dan Quinn.
Yeah.
And he is like Eberflus was a defensive guy with the Colts. Dan Quinn's a defensive guy. And you think, gosh, usually you hire offensive minded coaches. And probably I'm sure that's what Chicago's going to do when they fire Eberflus. They're going to bring in Ben Johnson or somebody else that's an offensive genius to work with Caleb Williams. But Dan Quinn is a defensive-minded coach. He gets in there. He hires a good offensive coordinator in Cliff Kingsbury. He has a rookie quarterback in Jaden Daniels, just like Eberflus now has with Caleb Williams. And just everything with the Commanders looks so much more stable and like there is a plan, like you said. It looks like they have an identity. They know what they're supposed to be. They know how to maximize the talents of their young quarterback and help him in points that he's weakest and make it easier on him. And you look at the weapons that the Commanders have versus the weapons that the Bears have. I think is very similar. You might even say that the Bears have some better skill position players than the Commanders do. So, I look at that as kind of the sort of damning evidence against Eberflus is that, look, you in almost the very same circumstances and maybe even a little bit worse, there is another guy who has a team looking ready to go and actually can get into the playoffs. And you might be a little bit worried playing against them. With the Bears, it just hasn't looked that way. And it does not look like he has a grip on that job. And that's why at the end of this year, it will all come to an end and they'll make a change and start over. But they got to get that right for Caleb Williams because he's too big of an asset to put in a bad position like they had been putting him in for most of this year.
All right, I don't take picks very seriously, but let's pick this one just because it's an intriguing game. Who do you like?
I mean, I'm going to go with the Vikings. 21-20, something like that. I think it'll be another one of those, just brass knuckle, whichever team makes the fewest mistakes kind of game wins. I do like what I saw from Sam Darnold this week to make me believe that maybe he's underneath him. And I think that the Vikings defense is going to be able to do enough to confuse Caleb Williams just enough, to squeak out another one of those ugly, tough wins in Soldier Field that are often hard to come by for this team.
Yeah, I agree. I almost expect some kind of a weird score out of this game. I think it could be ugly and close. I'm going to say Vikings 22-16.
Sure.
Why not? I do think the Vikings find a way to get it done. I think Flores will be tougher on Williams than the Packers defense was. And I think we'll be talking about a 9-2 team. And guess what? Atlanta doesn't look so tough anymore. So who knows where the season's going? But, I wrote about it the other week. No Vikings coach, in part because of the shorter schedules, of course. Bud Grant would have gotten to 13 wins a couple times in a longer schedule. But no Vikings coach has ever had 2 13-win seasons, and O'Connell might be on his way to that.
I think Alec Lewis, my partner at The Athletic, has a really interesting stat. The NFL teams with better or the same record as the Vikings are paying their quarterbacks an average of $45 million this year. Minnesota is paying $10 million. And so I think that is that's Kevin O'Connell, right? I mean, that is Kevin O'Connell and Brian Flores and what they're doing, coaching this roster up and having it exceed the financial investment that's being put in at the most important position, having them exceed or overcome some of the draft misses that have happened so far. And I mean, O'Connell just continues to do a great job here and looks like a guy that but you better keep here for a very long time, because I think he's one of the very best coaches in the league.
Also, credit to the Wilfs for having Harbaugh and O'Connell among their finalists, because Harbaugh would have been great too. Great point. Yep.
And, you know, it was a risk. Remember, Jim, like we'll get into this later on this year, I'm sure, but it was a risk to say, no, Jim Harbaugh, we are not going to take you. And look, he's a really good coach. He's done a great job for the Chargers. So if they had picked O'Connell and he turned out to be the wrong pick, if he turned out to be an Eberflus style coach, that really reflects poorly. So good on the Wilfs. And I think, you know, Andrew Miller and everyone who was involved in that, in that decision, that was a big one for them, because Harbaugh is a very good coach.
No doubt. Good stuff from John. Again, John Krawczynski Show, 7 p.m. Tuesday night at Head Flyer Brewing. Come on out and say hello to Jim Peterson and everybody else who's there. We always have a great time. And thank you for listening to the Viking Update Show.